everybody. Whoops. All right, got it. All right, good morning, everybody. And we are recording, so, don't say anything that you don't want to be up in the cloud. Thank you all for being here. First of all, thanks for showing. I want to just start off with a little sort of preemptive apologies or trigger warnings, or I don't know what they are. As some of you know that I fell and broke my kneecap. So I'm sitting here with my leg up, which shouldn't have anything to do with this presentation this morning, but I'm finding that my knee and my brain are somehow connected in a way that I wouldn't have thought. So I'm a little wonky. And then just to add insult to injury, in the last 48 hours, my computer decided to have a meltdown with no sound, and my Windows is apparently corrupted. I don't know. So in a panic, I called Jeff, and I am at Jeff and Jane's right now on their computer. Thank you, Jeff and Jane. And Jane in particular set a lot up. So under the best of circumstances, I am not the most savvy tech person, to say the least. And these are not the best of circumstances. So if we're a little clunky as we go, please forgive me. We're going to do our best here, and I think it'll probably work. But if it doesn't, I just ask for forbearance. I want to, well, and let me say, in terms of how I think we can proceed with this, as our numbers are, even if we get a few more folks, I think our numbers are small enough. If you would keep yourself muted, just so we don't have background noise until and unless you want to talk. You can send questions in the chat to Jeff. I suppose ideally, unless it's something really pressing, maybe let's do questions and conversation at the end. But if as we're going on along, you feel like you really got to ask something, put it in the chat to Jeff, or even with this number of folks, I'm okay if you just, unmute yourself and say, hey, what about, or whatever. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't work, we won't do it, but I think it should probably be fine. So we can keep that sort of informal. I want to start off acknowledging a whole bunch of people. And first of all, my co-partner in all of this, Jeff Gingold. Mike Stombaugh, of course, great, thanks, Tanya. Mike Stombaugh in the office, of course, sets up the registration and does all the magic that we all know that Mike does, and we're really grateful to him. Certainly our rabbis, who are amazingly supportive in every way. And I want to acknowledge that we had some funding for this series, and we're going to talk about the series in a second, from Jewish Nevada. We got a mini grant from them, which is going to help us with some of the scholars, some of the speakers coming down the road. So I want to acknowledge that. All right, so let's see if I can start this show going here. Where do I want to go? Okay. Oops, wait a minute. I didn't share screen. Come back. Hold on. How do I get rid of it? Yipes, I don't know what I've done.
Escape.
All right, I didn't share screen, did I? All right, let me see if I can get back to my Zoom here. Okay, so let me share the screen. That's what I'm trying to do. And then I want to get rid of this. And then I want to go here.
Got this. There you go.
Okay, can you all see that now or not?
No.
No, okay, how do I get back out of that?
All right, hang on a sec.
I just hit it. Okay, let's try
Okay,
this
now
again.
let's try share screen.
Share screen again.
And desktop, share.
Okay. There we go.
Is that the one you
No,
want?
that's not the one I want. Get rid
the
of
one
that.
you
That's
want?
the one I want.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we cooking?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I want to say something about, you've all seen that. That's the lovely promo that Mike did for all of us. So I want to talk about what this Sacred Sinai series is, at least what I think we think it is, and what it's not. And the latter part is really important to me. Jeff and I are sort of a newly constituted, we're not a committee, but this is about adult education. And it's adult education with a focus or sort of an intentional focus on all those topics of inclusion and diversity. But what it is not, and I want to be really, really clear about this, this is not a diversity training. this is not READY, which is Race, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Training. And the obvious, and for a lot of reasons, it's not that. But what I want to be very intentional about saying up front is that clearly Jeff and I don't represent diversity in any way, shape, or form. We're two Ashkenazic, white, older, cisgendered, straight, except for me being female. That's about all the diversity we've got going here. So what are you doing?
I'm just adjusting something here so we can all see it.
Okay.
So bear with me. Go on, keep talking.
Okay. Jane's futzing around here. There. Yeah, I like it that way. Thank you. So, and I am very aware of that we are trying to do an adult education that brings some sense of diversity and inclusion to all of us. And yet there's Jeff and I who don't represent diversity. And which is why I want to be really, really clear on saying that this is an adult education enterprise. This is not a diversity committee, any of that sort of thing. I want to note that the Sinai board is or will be, has thought about and hopefully will be down the road looking at whether there might be a diversity committee as established as part of Temple Sinai. There's been some connections made with a group in the Bay Area called the Cholashon that deals particularly with Jews of color and particularly Black Jews, but Jews of color generally. And there's some consulting that may go on with them. So there may be more things coming down the line. But for now, this is adult education. We hope it can open our minds to some areas of diversity and inclusion. We're aware of who we are and who we're not. And by the way, while I'm on that subject, I just felt like I wanted to get something started, but I would be thrilled if there are persons of whatever, diversity, non-diverse, whoever, that wanted to join us in this enterprise. This does not have to be Jeff and me doing. And if there's a session that somebody's interested in and they want to talk, they want to put something together, that would be great. If the two of us, if the group that's behind this expands, that would be, in my opinion, terrific. So this does not have to be a Jeff and me enterprise at all. So what I want to do, stop that share. I want to start out by talking about, where's my Safari? Okay, I'll get rid of this thing. Okay, I want to start out. We good? Everybody sees Exodus 25?
No.
No. Okay, why not? Okay.
Share screen.
Let's do share screen again. There, I'm going to hit this thing. All right, but I don't want that. Let's get rid of you. And I get rid of this. Which
one do you want?
I want the, I don't know, don't see it down there now anymore.
Okay.
The Safari
Closed
one.
out of it.
They're up on the side.
Yeah. No, not Safari. Safaria. It was down there a second ago. And now it's not.
You closed out of it.
I closed out of it?
Yeah, you did.
How did I do that?
I don't know.
I never was in it. Hold on.
Please hold.
All right, how do I get out of this? Is my question.
Okay, that's this one, is it not? No.
No.
Okay.
Get rid of that one. That's what I don't see, those little thingies up there. There they are. Okay, get out of that.
Okay.
Now, where'd the Safari go?
I don't know. We may have to look it up again.
Okay, let's look it up again.
So plug it in.
Okay.
Here it is.
Okay. All right, we'll try again. But the trick is how to, okay, so where do I share it? Exodus 25. Okay, there it is. Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, yay. Thank you, Jane.
Sure.
Keep your ear at the door.
I'll do
Thanks.
that.
Okay, so, and can I, yeah, no, that's not what I want to do. Get out of there. Okay, so there are a lot of texts that a person might turn to say we're going to frame the whole enterprise, why does it even matter that we care about inclusion and diversity and all that? And you can imagine the text about justice, justice shalt thou pursue, text about all of us being created in the image of God from Genesis. There's lots of places we could go. I was drawn to this text in Exodus 25, and I want to tell you why, and then we're going to go somewhere else with this. This is where the Israelites are setting up the tabernacle in the desert, which is the Mishkan, that portable sanctuary that they're going to haul through the desert. And maybe a lot of you have read this in advance, but let me just read it through. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart so moves him. And these are the gifts that you shall accept from them: gold, silver, copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hairs, tanned rams skins, dolphin skins, acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli, and other stones for setting, for the ephod, for the breastplate." And then the last line, "and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them." Now, I would prefer that to be within them, but among them, it doesn't matter for the preposition there. When most rabbis look, there's a standard rabbinic midrash or interpretation of particularly verse 8 here. And that is, "Let them make me a sanctuary." And some of you probably have heard me preach this like several times before. "Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell within them," or among them. The rabbis raise a grammatical concern, which is, if it's "let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell within," the next preposition you would, the next pronoun you would expect would be "within it," referencing the sanctuary. "Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell in it," right? But instead, the text says, "Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell in them." And so where the rabbis go immediately with that is that it's not about the facility. It's not, in our case, we'd say it's not about the building. In their case, it's not about the Mishkan. It's about the Mishkan offering a place in which sacred community can be established. Not the facility, but the community within it. So it's about setting up a place that nurtures sanctity and a sacred community. With that in mind, I go back and look at, I am really struck by, tell them to bring me gifts. So they're all bringing gifts for the making of this sacred community place. And you accept gifts from every person whose heart so moves him or her or them. And look at all the kinds of gifts. Some people are going to bring gold. Some people are going to bring silver. Some people are going to bring copper. Some are going to bring yarn. Some are going to bring whatever a dolphin skin is. Some are going to bring wood. And I looked at this portion and I'm really struck by, to me, this portion has sort of become my frame for thinking about diversity and inclusion, that all the folks who might be part of the sacred community that we're going to establish in verse 8 have so many different gifts that they might bring. And if you didn't be fully inclusive, you might not have the crimson yarns, you might not have the acacia wood, whatever it is that's needed to make this community. It seems to me really clear here that there's an acknowledgement of the diversity and the wonderful diversity and the necessary diversity for establishing this sacred community in this Mishkan that's going to happen in verse 8. So I see this as a text that speaks to the sanctity of diversity. And I want to talk about that in a minute. Right now, let me see if I can get back to where I want it to be. Okay, so what is this one, Myra? There's that portion, never mind. So when we talk about synagogues, or when we talk about Kehillah Kedosha is a term. Kehillah is the community or the congregation. Kadosha is sacred. So this is just the Hebrew term for sacred community, which is where I think that previous set of verses took us. And some of you might even know that sometimes you'll see when a congregation is listed, like on a letterhead or the name of the congregation, it'll say KK with like a little slashes between the two Ks, KK B'nai Jeshurun or KK Beit Shalom or something like that. That's Kehillah Kedosha. And some congregations actually have that in their name, that they are a sacred community. So I want to look at in this presentation this morning, and I think I didn't say this at the beginning, what I hope this presentation this morning is just framing for us the rest of this series. And in framing it, I want to look at both pieces of this. I want to look at the Kadosha piece, the sacred piece, and I want to look at the Kehillah piece, the community piece. So we started looking, I hope, on the Kadosha part. And I want to now, if I can do it, let's see, where are we? Ba-dum-bump. Okay, let's get rid of you and go to a very funky graphic that I made that I don't see. Jane? Nope. Okay, I don't see my slide that I wanted on belonging.
I think you may have closed down, but let me get it for you.
Okay, the belonging one?
Yeah, I think. Which number was it that you
It
sent?
says belonging, I don't know. I think it was like maybe 3.
Educational presentations. Oh, that's 4.
There, did I see? Right there, welcoming belonging, that one. Okay, good. So can you see that? Y'all can see this welcoming belonging slide, which is an example of how horrible I am at putting together slides and graphics and things.
And make sure that when you go up to this,
Yeah.
Never mind, I'll take care of it for you.
Okay, how am I going to get rid of it when I'm done?
There should be a yellow thing up here. Oh, it's just not showing up.
Okay, oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, sorry guys, I told you this would be a little clunky, and it is. All right, so one of the interesting things to me that I've been, probably a lot of you have too, I've been in and out of all kinds of Zooms about inclusion and diversity and a lot of stuff from the URJ. And one of the things that popped out at me along the way was there's a growing kind of impulse to make a distinction between welcoming, which is I think what we've talked about for a long time in terms of diversity and inclusion, and the URJ has a thing called audacious hospitality and that everyone should be welcome. But increasingly, people are talking about belonging as even more to the point of what we're talking about. And what's the difference between welcoming and belonging? Rabbi Angela Bookdahl, who some of you may know of, she's a Korean-American Jew who is a rabbi and a cantor, and she is the rabbi at Central Synagogue, and she was the first Asian cantor and then the first Asian rabbi, and she's Central Synagogue is an amazing, huge, wonderful synagogue in New York City. If you ever are online and have an opportunity to log on to anything that Angela Bookdahl is doing, do it, because she's phenomenal. The first place I heard this distinction between welcoming and belonging was from Angela. And she talked about welcoming is more about I want to welcome you into my space or my thing or my community. And I want you to be, welcome and all that stuff, but it's more like mine and you can come in. Belonging is about the community being ours. And so it's a collaborative, and we're all about that. So the first time I heard this welcoming belonging thing was from Angela. And the next time I heard it was in a URJ Ready, which is race, equity, diversity, and inclusion training. And there the distinction was made that welcoming feels more like you can come into what's already here, the status quo. Belonging has to do with, this is something that can be transformational. And it's not going to be just what about is, but it's going to be what can we together make it? And that's really what belonging is versus just welcoming. And welcoming isn't bad. Let me be clear on that. We certainly want to be welcoming. But I think what I'm hearing now in a lot of these trainings is there's even more. And the even more is being expressed in belonging. I looked at this, and for me, I put, and this goes back to the text now and the sacred community, Kehillah Kedosha. I kind of feel like welcoming is a mitzvah, and Lord knows mitzvot are good things. So I'm not disparaging welcoming at all, but I think belonging is really Kedusha, is really sanctity. And that's what I'm trying to hold in front of myself as what we're going for, is even more than mitzvah, even more than welcoming, that we're going for belonging. So that is, shoot, what did I do? Let's see if I can find my way back. Okay. So we're back to the Kehillah Kedosha part. And what I want to look at now, just briefly, and this is going to be really scattershotted. How are we? What did we? Okay, so I think this may well not take us an hour and a half at the rate I'm going, but we shall see. I want to talk about the Kehillah, the community part, and this really is going to be scattershotted. And as this series unfolds, what I think Jeff and I imagine we're going to be doing is looking at who or the various who all might be the varieties of folks that make up the Kehillah, that are in the congregation or in our community or in the Jewish community. I want to, and the question really is, who might we be as a Kehillah if Ashkenormativity did not prevail? Now, that's a crazy term that some of you may have heard. And this is just a quick, and it's kind of a lot of stuff, but Ashkenormativity means basically that you assume that the default expectation of who is a Jew is a white Ashkenazic European Jew, right? And this is just an interesting little analysis here. It's a unique form of Eurocentrism that it's found its way into Jewish culture. In a twisted way, the whiteness that became a hallmark of power due to European colonialism has been able to become a boon for white-passing Jews, in particular Ashkenazim. While in much of actual Europe, anti-Semitism is so deeply rooted that even having white skin doesn't necessarily enable you with privilege. In the unique case of America, it allows for a situational point of privilege that changes based on the whim of the majority. The same way that in so much of society we have defined white people as the default person, a similar sentiment has translated into defining the Ashkenazi as the normative Jew. For Jews of color, some of whom are Ashkenazic themselves, though still face racism based on the color of their skin, we are not only asking for our fellow Jews to use the privilege they do have in non-Jewish society to better the lives of others, we are demanding to be equal members of our own Jewish community. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. So Ashkenormativity now has kind of become a term that really extends even beyond that. Sometimes when people say Ashkenormativity, they're including assuming everyone's straight, or including everyone is equally able, or lots of kinds of things. But it's the default assumption that kind of thinks that, you know, Jews look like me, or Jews look like Jeff. And in fact, that has increasingly been problematic for us because, of course, Jews look like this too. I want to say, as we get into this, and again, we'll do much finer detail on this as we work through the series, but you will come across lots and lots and lots of different studies about what are the numbers. Let's just start with talking about Jews of color, Black Jews, brown Jews, Hispanic Jews, Asian Jews, and multiracial Jews, and so forth. And again, you'll hear that 10%, 12%, 15%, somebody has a different percent. Some of you may be familiar with the Pew report, which is a report that came out in 2020 that did a whole huge census of the Jewish community and who makes up our Kehillah. And the numbers may be important to someone. They're not so important to me. What is important to me, and I want to add this to our notion that a fully diverse community is a sacred community. I also think there's an issue of Jewish continuity in here, Jewish survival, literally, because what all the studies seem to agree on is no matter what the percentage number is that they say, you know, these are Jews of color that now make up our community, they all agree that as you drop in the age cohorts, that number rises. So it might be 2% among, and I'm just making these numbers up, but it might be a small percentage among 65 pluses. But when you get down to 20s and 30s, the percentage gets much larger. So if in fact we care about, it's not just a matter of sanctity, which I'm going to say that I think it is a matter of sanctity, which I've said a million times already, but it's also a matter of Jewish survival. Our community is becoming ever more diverse, and if we're not inclusive of that and aware of that and really fully about all of us belonging, I think we're going to be looking at a sorry state for the Jewish world. Now, I want to also, I want to say that I'm not sure what I had this slide in here for, but I know what I have it for. I want to also tell you about a study that was released recently called Beyond the Count. And it was done at the end of this past August. And instead of looking at just numbers of, you know, who are the non-white or non-white Jews in our community, who are the Jews of color in our community, these researchers surveyed 1,118 self-identified Jews of color, who then opted into an online survey, and 60 of them were interviewed in much more detail. And among the respondents, about a fifth identified as Black, African, or African American, 11% as Hispanic or Latinx, 10% as Asian American, and the balance as Middle Eastern, North African, or Native American. Most of the respondents, 66%, identified as biracial, mixed, or multiracial. Most, 64%, had at least one Jewish parent, and 22% of these folks had two Jewish parents. 40%, more than a third, converted or were converted to Judaism. 65% were raised Jewish or Jewish and something else. So 65% of them were raised with some manner of Judaism. 3/4 of them, 77%, said they were exclusively Jewish, and 21% said they were Jewish and also identified with another religion. The Jews of color who responded to the survey described their connection to their Jewishness in ways that mostly mirrored the wider Jewish population, with large numbers describing social justice, remembering the Holocaust, and celebrating Jewish holidays as very important. One Asian American woman in her 20s said she recently hosted a Bollywood-themed Shabbat, and a Black woman in her 30s said she was embracing both Judaism and earth-based indigenous tradition and Senegalese-based practices. She said, "I'm bringing together aspects of myself that were very siloed." Among these 60 that were interviewed in detail, a number discussed the importance of affinity spaces for Jews of color, with nearly half of those who participated in the survey saying that they did not feel a sense of belonging among white Jews. So here's one quote: "Going to the synagogue fills my need for Jewish spirituality, and there is another spiritual need that I have to be in Jews of color only spaces." And that was a Mexican and Iranian American woman in her 30s. So I just throw that out just to give you kind of a quick look at what one more intense sample of the Jewish community. And, you know, I just pulled this up because I found this slide, and I mean, look, these are all Jews. So, I mean, just look at these faces. This is just, a graphic counter to any kind of thing we might think about Ashkenormativity. This is a slide from a young woman, and let me read you what she has to say. Her name is Myra Baum, and she writes, "Dear brothers and sisters, I am scared. I fear your judgment. I am afraid that my article," which this refers back to something she wrote, "will not resonate with you, and that my words will fail to encapsulate the struggles of Asian Americans today. As both a Jewish woman and a person of color, I have experienced the trauma of being overtly accepted but privately invalidated since I was a child. As a result, I have always tried to convince myself that I do not experience racism in the Jewish community, but that is far from true. So instead of writing an article, I decided to write you a letter that presents my truth, my experiences, and the pain I've endured as an Asian Jew. Although I hate to face it too, racism exists in the Jewish community. And I just want to flip through, again, we're talking about who is our community. This is not, I did not do a good job. This is a fuzzy slide, but obviously we are a community of LGBTQ plus Jews. Increasingly, there's awareness of trans Jews within our community who frequently run up against, I mean, just imagine, or if you are a Jew of non-binary gender, just think about Hebrew as being a gendered language. Think about, we have bar and bat mitzvah service ceremonies, but what if you don't identify in a binary gendered way? I mean, there's all kinds of things that pop up around in the whole LGBTQ community. There are issues about differently abled Jews. And with that, I have to say with my knee, I am suddenly becoming far more aware of what's out there in the world that is not inclusive and certainly does not give a sense of belonging to anybody who is not of a certain kind of bodily ability. And of course, there's neurodiverse Jews as well. And these are Jews in Cochin, India. So we have Jews that are not Ashkenazic and are Sephardic or Mizrahi, different again, than Ashkenazic Jews. So all those slides, oops, how do I get rid of this business? All those slides are, oh, there we go, are just by way of just quick here, there, who might, the various different Jews within our community. I think I skipped something that I wanted you to take a look at. So let me see if I can pull it up now. Okay. What have I got going on here? Why can't I do that? Let's go back there. Okay. I don't know what this is, and I don't know how to get rid of it, but we'll go with this. Can you all see this white Ashkenazic awareness checklist? Yes? Okay. So I want you just to look at this very quickly, and I'll just be quiet for a minute. This was something that was in one of the workshops I did. And just everybody take a second and look at, yeah, get rid of that for me.
Can you make it bigger, Rabbi Myra?
Yeah, hang on, we're working on it. Okay, there it is.
Hit the green and it'll get bigger. Go up to the left and hit the green.
There we go. Okay. Got it. So, yeah.
Go to the top?
No,
No?
no, I got it, thanks. Okay, so I just want people just to take half a second and I'll just give you a couple minutes just to look at some of these. And this is just a way of realizing the sort of default setting and the Ashkenazic privilege that some of us live with. So let me be quiet and just take a few minutes and look at some of this. And I'm going to flip, there's a second page of this, and you don't have to read every word of these to get the idea here. Okay, so the point to that, let me come back. Okay, so the point of that was just to maybe give us a quick, just looking at that, I think it may be surprising to some of us that that's not in our experience, what some of those questions and stuff imply. So let me just say that what I think Jeff and I hope in this series is that we will be able to take a look at all kinds of various members or potential members, or at our community, at who is or who might be in the Jewish community. Who have we left out? And hear from different of the varieties of what might be our Kehillah. If we really were inclusive, if this notion of belonging really worked in terms of setting up what, again, to me is sanctification. And if you've looked at the publicity, you know that we've scheduled the first two, the next two, one of which is going to focus on older Jews, and it's sacred aging is the rubric for that. The one after that, and I want to acknowledge Deborah Achtenberg, who turned us on to this wonderful Indian American Jewish artist whose name is Siona Benjamin, and her art reflects, with this wonderful blue people, her multi-identities, multicultural identities, and being an immigrant, and how all that comes out and works for her. And that's going to be exciting. We are talking with the Bay Area folks and hoping to put something together that's about Jews of color, and particularly Black Jews. We have in mind as well a session LGBTQ. We have a lead on someone who's really an expert on ableism in the Jewish community. We haven't yet moved forward on that, but we will. So, I mean, that's just a sort of a preview of what we think we've got coming down the line. I also want to say it's clear that this is very much head stuff, right? We're labeling this as Jewish education, and I still am of the school, and even my little idealistic self frequently finds that this is not true, but I cling to the notion that if we learn, we will act. And if we learn well, we have the possibility of acting better. So I want to just, let me see if I can find my last thing. Yeah. Oh, come back. Don't do that, Myra, until you screen share. I want to leave us with something that's a bit of an action something. It's not a huge action something, but it's a little bit. Oh no, where did it go? Oh, phooey, I closed it out. Jane. Nope, I left that one. Let's see if I can find it. I closed something out that I didn't mean to.
That's okay. I can fix it.
Can you find me back to the
Yeah, I can.
the racial justice campaign slides?
Here somewhere. Not using, nope.
No, it should say racial justice. Hang on, we'll try to find it.
Type in racial justice.
There it is, right there. That one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Am I screen sharing it now?
I don't know.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go here because I need to scoot down. Thank you. Sorry. All right. So what I want you to see is this. Nope, that's not what I want you to see. Keep going, Myra. Up. Okay, so I wanted to leave us with a little something to do. It's not a big to do, but it's a little something to do that is at least something along the way of action. And let me just say that as we go through these sessions, I hope, I mean, it's my, my idealistic hope that somebody will be a part of a session and they'll learn about some way that we are not as inclusive as we might think we ought to be, and they'll get all fired up to actually get out there and do something. That's not like the starting point for this adult education, but I hope that that's sort of what it spins off. So, if we talk about ableism in the Jewish community, maybe somebody will really get all head up about things that need to be made differently in our synagogue that are more inclusive of people of different abilities. So what I wanted to leave you with this morning was this slide about modeling inclusive language. And some of this, I looked at it and I'd heard about, and some of it was my goodness. So there's this, on the one hand, the left-hand column, the non-inclusive language, confined to a wheelchair. I mean, what does that imply? As opposed to uses a wheelchair, suffers from blah, 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 as opposed to lives with. Some of these things, they're crazy, they're wacko, terms just shouldn't be used at all. Oh my God, she's so OCD, right? I'm sure I've slipped into that sometimes. It's horrible. Some of this language, a lot of this language has to do with binary assumptions about gender that show up in our language all the time. So we talk about men and women when we could just talk about people or staff or colleagues or participants or members. We talk about boys and girls when we could talk about students, children. Brothers and sisters when we could talk about siblings, son and daughters. So you see the list. And I just wanted to leave that. And at the very bottom is one that speaks to what is practically some of the issues in our community. And I know my rabbinic colleagues are really working with a lot of our ceremonies. We've never thought of them that way before, but a lot of our ceremonies are very exclusive in ways that might not have seemed obvious to us. So instead of what if we have a child who is gender nonconforming, do they have a bar mitzvah? Do they have a bat mitzvah? Some people are talking about b mitzvah. Some people are talking about b'nai mitzvah. Some people are talking about Torah mitzvah. So this is just a tiny bit of here's some practical stuff in terms of what you might walk away with from today. So let me stop sharing and let me come back in to full screen. I could go back to the Kehillah Kedosha slide, but I won't, considering what's going on with my tech abilities here. But I want to remind you that that's the frame for me, that I am absolutely, I mean, I now understand this whole effort to be inclusive, to form a community that where all Jewish persons feel that they belong, even more than they are welcome, that I understand that as the sanctity, as the Kadosha part of Kehillah Kedosha. And what we hope is going to happen as we move down the line is we'll all get a better sense of who it is that might be in the Kehillah, in the community. And so we will go at that as best we can. And I think with that, I am really through with what all I wanted to present. And I would love to hear from folks. Anything you want to say? Comments, criticisms, questions, thoughts, ideas, we're open to it all. And if not, we'll all go home and have breakfast. I think I see Jane. Yeah.
I want to thank you for this presentation. I thought it was excellent, and you did fine with the computer, so don't worry. And I really love how you started with text from the Torah and all those different gifts. And I just think that's such a great touchstone for me and hopefully for others, that we're all welcome, no matter what our background, and whatever we can offer is valuable. So thank you. That really tied things together for me.
Thanks, Jane. I was really struck by that text, yeah.
Rabbi Myra, I'm sorry I didn't get here on time.
Well, that's okay. I'll do a private session for you, Edna, not to worry.
Oh,
The
that's
session
not,
was recorded.
that's
And
right.
it's being recorded, and it will be in the cloud and accessible. I don't know how you do that, but somebody does. Jeff can tell you how to do that, maybe.
Great.
We will
I've been
send,
here helping take down the sukkah.
Ah, good for you. Jeff, do you want to say something about it being up in the cloud?
yeah, we will send a note to everybody who's in the class to find where the location is after we put it up on the Sinai YouTube site.
Wonderful, Jeffrey. And I did register.
Good.
A couple quick things. Look at all the colors and shapes of the faces looking at you here. So we've got lots of openings and opportunities to include and enlarge, to welcome and to enlarge our community. I just want to say that our speaker in November, Rabbi Richard Address, I don't know how many of you know of him, but he is perhaps the national expert on Jewish aging and does YouTube programs and has a fabulous podcast called Jewish Sacred Aging. And he talks for older people what it's like to get older, and for younger people what it's like to deal with older people. And where do older people fit in a community, and how does a community adapt and change, and what happens to the older folks who are done things a certain way, and now we have younger people who don't see things the same way and don't go to a building necessarily. And he's just he's a charming speaker and terrific and smart, and we're very, very lucky as a favor for him to join us in November. So I hope you'll come and particularly invite older people and younger people to listen to what he has to say. If you all, as Myra was saying, have suggestions about either topics or speakers, please let us know. We'll include them. But just, brainstorming, we're thinking, what do you all know about the Persian Jewish community? What do you know about the Turkish Jewish community? What do you know about the Russian Jewish community as they existed in the last 100 years, and what's happened to that community? We also are hoping, as COVID allows us to do so, to have mixed sessions, hybrid sessions, so that some people will be at the synagogue. And as we talk perhaps about the Persian Jewish community, imagine being able to smell Persian rice cooking in the kitchen, and we would enjoy celebrating and sharing that at the end of the meeting. So we have several other ideas and other programs. Siona Benjamin, who will be our speaker for December, will be showing some of her artwork, which is fabulous, and so that will be shared. And perhaps at some point there may even be a show at Sinai of some of her work, depending on how things go going forward.
And I'm looking in the chat, and Tanya, I see your Tanya is a gender, race, and identity major, and works in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at UNR. And I have a notion, and didn't I see Rabbi Sarah linked on at one point?
Yes, she's there. She's there under the. Oh, she just turned off. She was
Okay.
there under the.
It's my plan, Tanya, to put you and Sarah together to work on that session, on the gender session. We just quite haven't. We got a couple done, and now we're thinking about what we're going to do in the future. But thank you. I know you've got terrific expertise. And Iris has an interesting comment that she dislikes intensely being called white, because she doesn't like being grouped in with bigots. That's a problem for a lot of us, I think. But the bottom line is in that I feel like that's something I have to acknowledge, whether I like it or not, that in a world of diversity, I'm white. And that means a whole lot of things that I need to take responsibility for and work against, including, well, especially top of the list, the outright bigots. And maybe because I'm white, I can talk to those bigots better than other people can, although I have to say I'm not good at it. And that's I'm not, and I think that's the job for white folks, and I'm not good at it. And I need to learn to be better. So there's a whole lot, Iris, in what you've posted, and we could probably talk a lot. There are actually white affinity groups under the URJ diversity handle, And we can probably get you to some of those, because there are affinity groups for Jews of color who have certain issues that they really want to share among themselves. There are white affinity groups for white Jews to work on what some of our issues are and some of our concerns, like Iris has voiced here. And then there are groups where the diverse range comes together, because obviously we've got to all work together as well. And we can get you some of those links, or you can Google and you can find them for sure without any trouble. That stuff's all over the place. Thank you, Heidi. Anybody else? What I see, Chris is pointing at Laura. Is that because you want to talk, Laura, or Chris is pointing at you?
Yeah, yes, I wanted to say maybe you could, I think a lot, this really brought up, about our grandchildren and our daughter-in-law being a North African Jew, and how like they get those PJ library books and they're all Ashkenazi. I mean, they're 100% Ashkenazi.
No,
And,
they're not.
well, so far, all the ones I've seen have been. I mean, they read, our daughter and our little granddaughter reads them to us. And I was just thinking that you could do one on North African Jews, and there's a whole, as you know, music and
Right.
all that stuff.
Right.
And if so far the kids are not belonging to a synagogue, but if they went, they would find like that music is not there, and that
Right.
So yeah, that could be a really interesting session to have.
And I think, Deborah, you had raised that as something you might be interested in, yeah. And I also, there's another group that we didn't talk about today, but within our community, when we did the Jews and Race, the 3-part thing that many of you may have been a part of, we heard from a lot of Jews by choice who don't feel welcome within the community. And that's another area we may want to look at. Do we, what do we do with folks who we find out they weren't born Jewish, and then what happens? Yeah. So I think I see Jane and then Helene.
Actually, Helene was first, and then.
All right, Helene first.
Oh, that's very nice. I just think that this is a movement of our time, and I was wondering how other religious denominations, if you know, how they are proceeding to gather other people into their congregations.
I don't have hard data on that, but my sense is that a lot of what I would call sort of the mainline, I don't know if I want to use the word liberal, but traditions are kind of, we're all kind of working on these same kinds of issues, as is secular society, right?
Right.
I just want to frame it that for us, I think it's about being holy. But
And also I noted, if I'm not being too picky, that the one picture that you showed of different supposedly ethnic or whatever people didn't look to me on the outside to include any Asians. So I don't know if you could find another picture that
Okay,
might be a bit more inclusive.
Okay, good, thanks. The one individual woman was Asian with the letter, but yeah. I mean, the bottom line is no picture is going to cover it all. So hopefully we can create a community that covers it all.
Very
Yeah.
good, very good.
Yeah, but thank you, Helene.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My question actually is a follow-up from Helene. I wonder if we'd like to include the conservative synagogue and maybe even Chabad. I really thought of it when you said Persian Jews, and I thought of the Farahis.
That's right.
And so it might be a nice way to think about diversity as well. So
Yeah.
we could include them and just maybe send them this link to this presentation, and then just invite them to come to future sessions.
Very good.
Thanks. Good idea. This had by way of Jewish Nevada, this has been broadly advertised, but I think, but a particular invite is a great idea. I'm sure we can make that happen. Thanks. Okay, anything else? Should we send them home early, Jeff?
Thank you, Myra. Very nice. Thank you, Jane, for helping with the.
Or yes, for jumping in every time I messed up the computer. And again, we hope we'll see you in, what month is this?
November 7th.
In November, thank you, for the Sacred Aging presentation, and then December for Siona Benjamin. And we will have hopefully information coming out on future sessions that we are planning as well. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Hello,
you, guys.
Siona.
This was excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.